What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to talk about John Meadows, who is a somewhat famous fitness YouTuber who has recently been hospitalized after having a heart attack. And I'm going to talk a little bit about whether or not this was a result of what appears to be prolonged steroid use. So it's probably not going to be a very popular opinion. I'm sorry, I guess, but not actually sorry. I don't like. First of all, like, respect to John Meadows. He's a super nice guy. He gives great advice. He's one of the like real fitness YouTubers who's not just in it to sell vitamins or be like, oh yeah, 3 sets of 10, drink a protein shake. He's not like, he actually knows what he's talking about. He's got a lot of experience. He's old school basically. So not, I don't want this to come across as me like disrespecting him or being like, this happened because you did steroids or something like that. Like, he's a very nice guy. Like I said, he's just seems like a sweetheart, but got to call a spade again. And you have to consider, like, okay, here's the bottom line, right? You take one look at John Meadows, right? I remember the first time I watched one of this guy's videos, I was like, damn, this guy's jacked and he's like 50 years old. How much is he taking, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I watched a couple other videos of fitness YouTubers who are addressing this issue, and I don't want to say they were kind of beating around the bush, but what it seems like to me, because I've researched steroids a lot, I've dabbled here and there, and the people who are on HRT and the people who mainly the HRT people, they will kind of go to very extreme lengths to defend their HRT use. They'll say things like, well, if it was prescribed by a doctor, it's okay. As if the fact that it was prescribed by a doctor is somehow some kind of like get out of jail free card. Like, oh, it was prescribed by a doctor, it must be healthy. Like, no, that's completely wrong. First of all, doctors prescribe shit all the time that has negative effects on their patients, regardless of like, oh, the doctor said it was okay. You have to understand that one of a doctor's main concerns, even if they don't outright address this, one of a doctor's main concerns is to not get sued, right? So they're allowed to do whatever their little doctor's manual says. They're allowed to prescribe that for a patient or treat a patient in that way, even if it ends up killing the patient. And I'm not saying this is the case with John Meadows. I not going that far, but they're allowed to do that as long as it's a quote unquote approved treatment for whatever illness or ailment they're actually treating the patient for. Perfect example of this is chemotherapy, right? Chemotherapy and radiation have been approved cancer treatments for a very long time, despite the fact that they have awful effects on people, right? Why do you think people who have cancer, why do you think their hair falls out and their teeth fall out and they lose a bunch of weight and they look like shit? That's not from the cancer, that's from the cancer treatment, right? Yet these treatments are constantly prescribed to people, and nobody seems to think about like, oh, well, maybe they don't know what they're talking about, and maybe just the fact that a doctor gave it to me and it's a quote unquote approved treatment, maybe that is not like enough justification for me to actually be doing this. Okay, now that aside, because let's be honest, right? Let's just put it all out there. And again, like I said, I love John Meadows. He's an amazing person, but, well, but like, somebody who's going to be a professional bodybuilder, 99 times out of 100, these guys are on steroids, like a lot of different stuff. And to maintain that level of muscle mass, because John Meadows is jacked year round, right? Maybe he tightens it up a little bit before a show and maybe adds in a couple extra things before a show, but the dude is like gigantic all year round. And you can't really, and he's pushing 50 years old. You can't look at that guy's body and say, oh, it's just genetics, oh, that has nothing to do with the steroids. Anybody can achieve that naturally. Because bottom line, like, you can't hold on to that much muscle and maintain that year round without using steroids, right? So what's the problem with this is you'll have a lot of people who are on HRT and some professional bodybuilders or people in the bodybuilding community who will say, oh, my blood work's fine. Oh, well, like, all these other tests are fine. That means I'm okay, right? When if you take let's take a common sense approach. Let's say you take let's just take a common sense approach and you look at somebody who looks like John Meadows and you think, how can you possibly sustain this level of mass for that long without having some sort of negative effect? right? There's no free lunch. There's no magical pill or injection that you can take that will allow you to maintain that level of mass for an extended period of time without there being some sort of negative effect. Now, I don't know John Meadows, obviously. I don't know like how often he got blood tests. I don't know if he ever got an EKG to like see if his heart was operating properly. I don't know these things. From what I do know about him, he seems like a very level-headed guy, and just his whole like all his videos and just his personality in general, they make it seem like he's really on top of this kind of thing. I could be wrong, and he could have just kind of gotten used to his dosage and thought, well, fuck it, I feel fine, I might as well, continue with this dose even though my doctor's monitoring me. And I don't know the specifics of that, but like, again, let's take a common sense approach to this. You look at a guy who looks like that, who's maintaining that level of mass year round, and he's a professional bodybuilder. It doesn't matter you're conservative with the dose, you're only taking what your doctor tells you to take. Like, dude, there's no free lunch, there's no free ride where you can take shit like this and build up your body to that degree and expect that there's no negative consequences. Bottom line. And if you do think that you can mitigate those consequences, what are the odds that you're able to do it in a way where you're able to play mad scientist and you donate blood and you take this medication, you take that medication? Because people who blast and cruise, or people who compete in bodybuilding, they are so on top of this stuff. A lot of them are. Some of them, they just use it completely like irresponsibly and they're not on top of it and they suffer the consequences. But some of them are super on top of it and they do like everything properly and everything right. And you got to wonder, like, the guy looks like he was one of those guys, you know what I mean? He's very systematic with his training, very systematic with his nutrition. He knows all kinds of stuff. Yet here he is in this situation where he's had a heart attack. I think he's under 50 years old, and he's holding on to so much muscle mass year round. I know heart disease runs in his family and all that, but like, come on. At the end of the day, you might have even if you have a genetic predisposition, that doesn't take into account other factors, like where his parents lived in a time before we knew all this stuff about nutrition. Were they athletic and ate the perfect diet and did a lot of cardio and did everything perfectly well into their old age before they had their heart attacks? Maybe, but probably not. And again, I really don't want to turn this video into picking on him because he's such a nice guy. But the clips that I've seen of him doing cardio are not, and I know you just have to get your heart rate up and stuff like that. I saw one of him power walking, which is not the best cardio. I saw another one of him doing like a bicycle with the arms, right? And I saw another one swimming, right? I think I watched Greg Doucette's video actually, or I saw all three of those. And those are great. I guess swimming is good, but again, like I said, just look at the guy. He doesn't look like he does that much cardio. I know that's not a great argument, but what it really comes down to is this. And I made another video about on TRT that discusses this exact point, which is that all things being equal, even if you do everything perfectly, are you going to, what I said, and again, respect to John Meadows, but are you going to die sooner if you do TRT, right? And technically John Meadows, from what I heard, he's doing 150 milligrams of testosterone a week. That's a generous dose of TRT. And you got to wonder, like, that's not unheard of for that to be prescribed to like normal people. And, if that was prescribed to a normal person, would they have had this result? Or is it the fact that he was working out so hard and putting on so much muscle and training so hard for his bodybuilding shows, which is very hard on your body as well, So anyway, I guess that's the point. And I'm inclined to believe that doing steroids had a very, strong, it's a strong reason. It's a major reason as to why he had a heart attack. I don't know how severe it was. He seems to be doing fine right now. He seems like he's okay. I wish him the best, but like you can't deny the reality of the situation, that a guy who is that big and holds that much muscle year round and has a history of using anabolics for as long as he did, from what it sounds like responsibly for most of that time, you can't deny that does not have an effect, and you can't deny that it does not have a major effect on your health as a result. So anyway, that's it. Like, again, for the billionth time, like, I like John Meadows. He's a very nice guy. And if you are going to do steroids, you should obviously do them responsibly. Um, I think that if you are going to do them, I'm starting to think that TRT is not a good idea. Um, and just I'll end with this and then I'll end the video, but there's a concept in, this comes from like, uh, what's it called? Illegal drugs. Not narcotics. Anyway, drugs that you take are recreational drugs, right? Where if you take, let's say you're going to take ecstasy, for example. If you take a bunch of ecstasy at once, take 5 pills, which is a lot. You take whatever. Let's just say 5 pills. It's a lot. Don't ever do that. If you take that, that's less toxic to your body than taking 1 pill every 3 hours, right? So again, I don't know if this maps over exactly to TRT, but if we assume it to, if we assume that it does, then it makes more sense to cycle, to blast and cruise, or I guess not blast and cruise, but to just cycle your anabolics to go on and then off, as opposed to taking a very low dose year round. Again, I don't really know. I don't have that much hands-on experience with it, but just if I map that concept over from recreational drugs, and if I look at the evidence of these guys who are taking very reasonable like TRT doses and are saying like, oh, well, my doctor prescribed it, so it must be okay. Or like, oh, my testosterone is within the normal range. Yeah, I'm fucking, 6'2" and 260, shredded, jacked, and fucking 50 years old. But, when I do my little blood test, the number is within the range of what some doctor who doesn't know, not that they don't know shit, but like they don't have any hands-on experience. He reads your test and he looks in his little doctor book to see like, oh, am I going to get sued if I say this guy's okay and he's not? No? Okay, you're good. I get out of my office. I got more patients. Being a little bit callous about it, but that's the reality of the situation if we break it down to what's actually happening. Okay, so again, like I said, I wish him the best. I hope he's okay. But take this as an example of somebody, if you are doing TRT is not safe just because the doctor prescribed it, I guess is what I'm trying to say, which sucks because I was really like, I'm like this close to doing it. But and there might be other stuff behind the scenes, maybe something with his diet, maybe he wasn't doing enough cardio, maybe he wasn't being as careful as it seems like he would have been because of what I judge his personality to be and the impression that he gives, that he's like super responsible and on top of everything. Maybe that's not the case. I have no idea, but I don't know. Anyway, what do you guys think about that? Am I wrong? Am I right? Let me know. Leave me a comment. Peace.